My name is Nina Peckman, and I'm the staff education attorney at Advocates for Children of New Jersey. Welcome to this presentation about learning loss and compensatory education. ACNJ's work as an independent nonprofit organization for over 40 years has resulted in better laws and policies, more effective funding, and stronger services for children and families, giving more children a chance to grow up safe, healthy, and educated. We work closely with state and federal lawmakers and policymakers to bolster their understanding and response to the needs of children and families. The Kid Law Resource Center provides information and assistance to parents and those working with families about laws and legal processes that affecting children, including education and child welfare issues. You can learn more about us at www.acnj.org. In today's presentation, you'll learn about basic special education rights, an explanation of compensatory education, education rights related to COVID-19. You'll receive some advocacy tips regarding how to access compensatory education services and some helpful resources. Please be aware that this presentation is for information purposes only and is not intended as legal advice. For assistance with a particular issue, you can contact me, Nina Peckman, at ACNJ. This project is co-sponsored by the New Jersey State Bar Foundation and made possible through funding from the IOTA Fund of the Bar of New Jersey. For additional information about the Foundation's other law-related activities, please call 1-800-FREE-LAW or visit the Foundation at njsbf.org. The COVID-19 pandemic severely challenged the academic, social, and emotional development of many students. The periods of school closures with total remote and/or hybrid learning between March 18, 2020 and September 1st, 2021 significantly impacted students' progress and caused many students to regress. Challenges included lack of or inconsistent access to internet and/or necessary technology, only being provided instruction through paper packets or receiving no instruction at all for periods of time. Many students with disabilities also missed out on receiving critical services, including therapies, behavior supports, individualized instruction, and the support of an aide. Although most schools resumed full-time in-person learning in September 2021, many districts still are facing enormous staffing challenges which are affecting the services they can provide to their students. Many students are still struggling, as many are still behind academically and/or have experienced increased or new difficulties interacting with peers and staff due to mental health or social and emotional issues. In order to determine if your child experienced learning loss, parents or legal guardians need to review school records that demonstrate their child's current level of academic achievement. Parents have the right to request copies of records that all schools are required to maintain that document the student's academic progress, including report cards, progress reports, informal and formal assessment results. For students with related services in their IEPs, school logs of dates and times that services are provided, attendance records and discipline records and behavior write-ups if applicable. To request to see your child's education records, write a letter to the principal, or if your child receives special education, write the request letter to your child's special education case manager. The school must make a reasonable effort to provide you the opportunity to review your child's education records within 10 days of receiving your request. In addition, for parents or legal guardians whose dominant language is not English, the school must provide interpretation of the student's records in the parent or guardian's dominant language. If you're concerned about your child's academic progress, you may request a meeting with your child's school counselor and teachers to discuss what services and supports are available to get your child back on track with their education. You may also request a child study team meeting to relay your concerns, discuss progress, review evaluations that should be done, and services to ensure your child is back on track to meet education goals. When asking for an IEP or child study team meeting, you should always ask for one through a written, dated, and signed request. If you discover that your child experienced learning loss, you should know that New Jersey schools have received federal funds to increase and strengthen their resources to assist students to get back on track. Schools should be using this funding to create and enhance remediation and/or acceleration programs for students. Remediation involves meeting students where they are at and providing instruction on subject areas missed during remote instruction. Acceleration involves providing grade level instruction supplemented with programs designed to fill in the gaps from missed instruction, such as summer programs, tutoring services, and after-school programs. Parents and guardians should contact their school and ask what programs and services are available and how to access them. Here are some basic education rights that you should be aware of so you can make sure that your child's school district is meeting their responsibilities regarding your child's special education needs. Children from age 3 through age 21 are eligible for special education services. Eligibility is based upon the disability that affects learning in school, a serious problem with academics or behaviors that are affecting your child in school. Schools must identify children who could be eligible through multidisciplinary evaluations in all areas of suspected disabilities at no expense to the parent. If evaluations prove eligibility, the IEP team will develop the written education plan known as the Individualized Education Plan, or IEP, and this plan is in effect for 1 year unless the IEP is amended by written agreement. It's important to be aware of the special education timelines. Within 20 days of a written request for child study team evaluations to the child study team, the team must meet with the parent for an evaluation planning meeting. This is also known as the identification meeting. Within 90 days of the identification meeting, if the child study team and parent agree that evaluations will be conducted, the evaluations must be completed and an eligibility and meeting must be held. And if eligible, the IEP development meeting must be scheduled. If the IEP team and parent agree to implement the IEP, it must be implemented within 90 days. At the anniversary of the initial IEP, the student and parent is entitled to an annual review. And thereafter, at least every 3 years, the student should be reevaluated. Every student with an IEP has the right to learn and progress. According to education laws, the IEP must be reasonably calculated to enable the child to make meaningful progress appropriate in light of the child's circumstances. This means that when reading the proposed IEP, it should be clear that the services and placement being offered is going to help the child to learn and progress, given all the child's academic strengths and weaknesses and their behavioral and emotional needs. Students with IEPs who did not receive the services included in their IEPs during the pandemic may be entitled to receive compensatory education. Compensatory education are education services that school districts may have to provide to students to make up for the services that should have been provided, but that weren't provided under an existing IEP or because the district failed to develop an initial IEP in a timely manner. Students with disabilities may be eligible for compensatory education, even if the district did its best to meet the student's needs. IEP teams should schedule a meeting no later than December 31st, 2022 to discuss the services that students received between March 18, 2020, when schools closed, and September 1st, 2021, to determine eligibility for compensatory education. Parents may also make a written request to the child study team for an IEP meeting to discuss compensatory education at any time. And here is a sample of a written request to the child study team for an IEP meeting to discuss compensatory education. Compensatory education may be appropriate for reasons such as the student did not have access to a working computer and or did not have access to classes or schoolwork due to internet issues at any time between March 18, 2020 and September 1st, 2021 during periods of remote instruction. Or the student could not learn through remote instruction due to the student's disability, or the student needed a one-on-one aid but was not provided one, if the student did not receive necessary school-based therapies or other IEP services were not provided or not provided appropriately, or if the student did not receive necessary bilingual education services, or if the student experienced a long delay in receiving child study team evaluations and or appropriate services through the IEP. Keep in mind that parents do not have to prove that the student regressed. And here are examples of compensatory education that can be provided and include things like additional related services such as counseling, social skills, and therapies, tutoring, an extended school year, which is instruction that complies with the IEP and is provided during the summertime, reimbursement for costs of services paid by the student's parents or legal guardian that the child study team should have covered, transition or education services beyond high school, graduation, such as life skills and their job training or academics. An additional of school for students who turned 21 last school year or this school year or the next school year may be possible as compensatory education. A program out of district in a private or another public school setting might also be appropriate, or establishing a fund of money for the student to use for future services. To determine whether your child is eligible for compensatory education, the child study team is required to invite parents and caretakers to an IEP meeting, as I mentioned previously, and if eligible, to determine what services your child will require. This meeting must be conducted prior to December 31st, 2022. Parents do not have to wait to be invited to this meeting and can instead write to the child study team to request a meeting. This meeting would have to be held within 20 calendar days of the parent's request. At this compensatory education meeting, the IEP team should review how the IEP services were implemented and what, if any, IEP services were not provided as required. The parent may, but is not required to provide evidence supporting the claim that the school did not provide their child with appropriate services. However, if a parent has records, it could be helpful to resolve a dispute with their school. Here are some suggestions of what to bring to an IEP meeting or to provide to the child study team in advance of the IEP meeting to discuss compensatory education. Any records or logs of missed services that the child was entitled to receive under the IEP, receipts for therapies or services related to the IEP, video recordings of their child demonstrating skills at home, evaluation reports from treating physicians and or therapists documenting a child's disability and recommendations for school-based services, and relevant school records, including child study team records that the parents possess. When the parent wants to challenge a school district decision, it may be a good idea to consider first trying to resolve the issues informally. Here are some factors to consider in negotiation with the child study team. Under New Jersey law, schools should make up services using a 1-to-1 ratio. So for example, if a student missed 10 speech sessions, the student is entitled to 10 makeup speech sessions, unless the parent and district agree to another form of compensatory education. Parents should consider the risks, costs, length of litigation versus negotiating terms now for some but not everything they seek. When negotiating, parents should ask themselves, what services will their child most benefit from now and or later, and then consider asking for these critical services that are most important to the parent. Since COVID-19 related compensatory education is a new legal issue, it's unclear how courts will decide cases, and so is another factor that parents should consider when determining whether to negotiate a solution to the dispute informally. If the parent cannot resolve the compensatory education issues, the child study team refuses to schedule or doesn't respond to a parent's request for compensatory education meeting, or if the parent disagrees with the compensatory education services offered, the parent may then file consider filing for a petition for due process to request mediation and/or a due process hearing before an administrative law judge. In general, complaints asking for compensatory education must be filed 2 years from the date the parent knew or should have known of a problem with the school services. However, on March 3, 2022, Governor Murphy signed into law a bill known as S905 or A1281, which extends this 2-year period for filing a complaint based upon compensatory education claims from March 18, 2020 through September 1, 2021. So, for example, if your child did not receive the necessary IEP services between March 18, 2020 and September 1, 2021, a parent can file a complaint seeking compensatory education anytime up until September 1, 2023. In addition, according to this new law, the child study team must meet with you no later than December 31, 2022 to discuss the need for compensatory education. To file a due process complaint and/or request mediation, parent has to fill out the parent request for due process hearing. This form for this petition can be found on the New Jersey Department of Education website, and a link to the form is available on the resource page that's part of this presentation. The New Jersey Office of Special Education Program, or OSEP, will accept electronic requests sent as a PDF or by mail to the address seen on the screen. Make sure to follow all instructions and complete all sections of the petition, including indicating that you sent a copy of this petition to the superintendent and include the name and address of the superintendent. Otherwise, your petition will be returned to you, and while you may refile your petition at any time, this will delay the process. The due process complaint for compensatory education must include a statement that the school violated state and federal laws and guidance, a statement that your child's rights to compensatory education regarding COVID-19 issues is based upon an allegation of the school's material failure in the implementation of an IEP, meaning more than a minor discrepancy between the services required and those received, and/or an allegation that the school did not provide the student with a free, appropriate public education known as a FAPE to the greatest extent possible during COVID-19, as required by the U.S. Department of Education, the New Jersey Department of Education, the IDEA, and New Jersey State Education regulations. A statement of the reasons you are filing a due process complaint consists of stating the facts and time period when the alleged violations occurred. Based on your records, list each service or program, for example, related services, an aid or in-person instruction that were supposed to be provided, the required frequency and length versus what was actually provided, and your best calculation of how many hours or sessions are owed. List any other violations, such as the delay in child study team conducting initial or reevaluations, etc. You must also include a statement of how to resolve the case, and this should include a specific remedy that you are seeking. After the complaint is filed, the school and parent can try to resolve the matter at a resolution session with the IEP team within 15 days of the school receiving the parent's due process petition, unless both parties agree to waive this resolution session. Unless the parties request mediation in their due process petition, parents can indicate they want mediation by checking the appropriate box on the petition form. And if a resolution session does not occur, the Office of Special Education Programs will immediately transmit your case to the Office of Administrative Law for a due process hearing within 30 days of receiving your request for a due process petition. If a mediation is conducted and fails, the case will be automatically transmitted to the OAL, and the judge will be assigned to try to settle the case at a settlement conference. If this fails, another judge will be assigned to the hearing. If you want to file for due process relating to a high school graduation issue, as when you do not agree with your school's decision that your child is ready to graduate, and you and the child study team cannot agree upon an IEP for the next school year, you must file for a due process petition and request stay put prior to the school year's high school graduation date. Your child may be eligible for additional education if the IEP goals were not met or due to your child's academic, functional, and/or transition needs. Or your child, as mentioned previously, who may turn 21 during the 2021-2022 or 2022-2023 school years may be eligible to an additional year in accordance with New Jersey law S3434, which was passed in June 2021. Stay put is the right for a student to stay in the current placement and or to continue to receive current IEP services until a judge enters an order in the due process case or the parties sign a settlement agreement. Stay put goes into effect immediately upon filing the due process petition. And in this case, a stay put would prevent your child from graduating high school. Here are some helpful resources. I hope you found this presentation helpful. For more information regarding this presentation or assistance with advocating for your child's education rights, you can contact me, Nina Peckman at ACNJ. My contact information is npeckman@acnj.org. My phone number is 973-643-3876, extension 226. Thank you.